Good morning, dear students. Welcome back to our online session. You are watching Chai Ma'am, and today we are going to continue with our English literature short story, A Gorilla in the Guest Room. So, in the previous video, we have discussed that finally Pongo became the member of the Gerald Durrel's family, and he was brought into the guest room, and he behaved well, civilized in a very exemplary manner. Okay, except one or two incidents, but Durrell was so happy to have Gerald because he was not like the other animals, like or a chimpanzee or any other animal that belong to the ape family, which always used to scatter the things here and there and used to misplace everything. So when he was so much attracted by the way the baby gorilla Pongo behaved with them, and it showed a much kind of very civilized behavior. Okay, so we'll continue today from page number 78 of your textbook, paragraph number 1, last paragraph of the page. And we'll see that Pongo, of course, did not leave the guest room in the condition that he found it, but this was only to be expected. Now, after some time, when initially Pongo did not made any kind of spreading or scattering of the things in the guest room because he was unfamiliar, right? So after a few hours he got familiar and he started getting bored with doing the same type of activity. So these creatures like monkeys, they are very very hyperactive, right? So after some time it started moving from one place to another. We have seen that he was moving, making a circuit around the room as if a black professor is watching or making an observation or invigilating the things like that. So he was only a baby and could not be expected automatically. So it was surprising for the Durrell that this gorilla, that is Pongo, is a very small baby gorilla, right? And in this very small age itself, it is totally unexpected that the gorilla, or you will be over expecting that the gorilla will behave in a well mannered and civilized manner. But to his surprise, the baby gorilla was behaving well. Okay, and he was living in the house in the so the guest room, when he left it, bore numerous traces of his presence on a wall. For instance, was something resembled a map of Japan. So we have discussed this yesterday in the video. We have seen that again how, except few things, the few normal things, beside that, gorilla was not a big headache for keeping them inside the house. Okay, so he used to just scribble on the walls and make the wall dirty. And actually it feels dirty for those who perceive in that manner, but for those people who think that it's a kind of skill or it's a kind of artistic creation, for them it is scribbling down something, is something meaningful. Okay, and Durrell felt all those scribblings made by the Pongo, it appeared like a map of Japan drawn by one of the most inebriated ancient mariners. Okay, he felt like inebriated means heavily drunken Asian mariners, they might have made these type of maps. Okay, so this was nicely executed in scarlet and was due to the fact that I had thought Pongo might like some tinned raspberries. And Pongo is a small gorilla, so he was not expected to have any kind of heavy foods. Okay, so the author thought that he might be liking the raspberry, so he managed to get a tin of raspberries. He had liked them and gave it to Pongo. Pongo obviously liked the raspberries, and his enthusiasm at this new addition to his diet has exulted in the map of Japan. Okay, and he was so enthusiastic and so happy because today what he had is a new addition in his diet, in his food. Okay, so it was like he was so much excited, and enthusiasm means lot of zeal and excitement. Okay, at this new thing that has been added into his diet. And then that is also seen as the map of the Japan. So there was also straw. Next to paraffin, I know of no other commodity that manages to worm its way in a positively parasitic fashion into every nook and cranny before you are aware of it. Okay, so gorilla was so next to the paraffin. I know of no other commodity that manages to warm its way. Warm its way is actually, here it is referring to make somebody like you to gain some advantage. Okay, and the way actually gorilla, baby gorilla, was behaving was actually taking the heart of the Durrel, and he was liking the way it is behaving and it is doing, and every nook and cranny before you are aware of it. And he made sure that he will not make more scribblings in the guest room in every nook and corner. Okay, for months after Pongo's sojourn in our guest room, we were apologizing to the guests for the floor, which, in spite of hoovering, looked like a 16th century ale house. After many months, when Gorilla was taken away from the guest room, the the floor used to seem to be, everywhere little bit of pits and all, and everywhere it's some scribblings on the wall. Okay, and whichever guest they used to come into their house, first they have to apologize the guest for the floor, in spite of hoovering, look like, and it looked like, very old and 16th century ale house. Okay, so here that shows that when Pongo was there, he used to he was not having anything else to explore, right? So if he was outside, you can imagine Pongo might have climbed the trees, climb the branches, swing from the branches, jump from one branch to another. So many physical activities it might have involved. And as I told, these creatures are so hyperactive, so they don't know to sit idle, right, for some time. They always need movement, they always need to move one place to another to do something. Okay, and when he was in the guest room, he used to draw on the walls, he used to show all his artistic talent there, and he used to hoover the floors. Okay, means the gorilla's feet will be heavy and it feeds, it gets pits, and everything seems to be the flooring seems to be destroyed, and the house owners used to apologize to their guests for this purpose. There was also the fact that the handle on the door drooped at rather a depressed angle, since Pongo, after receiving his meal, had attempted to follow me out of the room. And even the handle of the door also seemed to be drooping down. Drooping down means bending down, because every time when the author used to step out of the house, the Pongo also used to follow the Durrel. And in order to open the door, Pongo might have, used extra pressure on that, and maybe because of that the handle got drooped out and bent down. Okay, and knowing that the handle by some magical means opened and closed the door, but not knowing exactly how to manipulate it. So as per the Pongo's knowledge, it was only observed by the Pongo that if you go and touch that particular handle, the door will be opening, and if you again touch it, the door will be closed. And for him, it's a kind of magical thing, but he was not exactly knowing the manipulating way, the way of pulling down the handle and opening the door, and when you pull up the handle back, the door will be closed. So he is not knowing that mechanism of how to open the door. So for him, it is like he doesn't know to exactly manipulate it, and he had merely pulled it downwards, and whenever he used to pull, he used to pull it with so much strength, and maybe repetitively doing this thing, the handle might have drooped down. So as I had merely pulled it downwards with all its strength, as I tried unsuccessfully to bend the handle back into position again, I reflected that Pongo was only about 2 years old, and that his strength would increase in proportion to his size. So the narrator or the Durrel thought that he will be fixed that handle back, and when he was trying to do that, it was he understood that Pongo was not such a big creature that it will be knowing or understanding the mechanism of opening and closing it back, whereas it's only a 2-year-old gorilla. Okay, so one of the, now if it increases its size, if a 2-year-old gorilla again succeeds in bending down the handle and if this gorilla grows into a huge gorilla, what will be happening? It will be breaking down the door itself, isn't it? So that was actually Gerald was thinking. So one of his things which particularly interested me about him was his different approach to a problem or a situation. If, for example, a baby chimpanzee is used to being brought out of its cage, on being incarcerated, it will carry on like one of the more loquacious heroines in a Greek tragedy, tearing its hair, rolling with rage on the floor, screaming at the top of its voice, and drumming its heels on every available bit of woodwork. Okay, so one of the thing which particularly interested the narrator about him was his approach to a particular problem or a situation. If, for example, a baby chimpanzee is used to being brought out of its cage, on being reincarcerated, it will carry on one of the more loquacious heroines on a Greek tragedy. Okay, so he says that loquacious means very, very talkative. And he feels like, the chimpanzee has brought out and outside the cage, then it will behave as if it has been taken to one of the greatest talkative heroines in the Greek tragedy, and it will to be tearing its hair, rolling down on the floor, okay, screaming very loudly at the louder of its voice, and drumming its heels on every available bit of the woodwork. The animals use to do these type of activities. They used to, uh, with their leg, they used to very forcefully, they used to stamp on the wood. Okay, and but when you forcefully stamp on the wood, it produces a sound, it produces a drumming sound. And Pongo was quite otherwise, but Pongo was not like that. He was very, very quiet. Okay, when he was being brought out of the cage, he did not behave anything like this, which the earlier was observed in the behavior of the chimpanzees. Although deploring it, he would accept the necessity of being locked up again in it. He would accept the necessity of being locked up again in his cage. Okay. Now, if anyone is trying to, deploring him means anyone is trying to make him to do some activity. Normally, if you go to some of your friends or relatives' house, and if there are small babies or children in the house, okay, and you will be asking those children to sing a song or do something, and the children are unwilling to do because they have that kind of audience fear, or they kind of maybe they are very shy and coy, or they were not so confident to express themselves, or they may be scared. Okay, so whatever could be the reason, but the parents, you might have seen that they will be forcing them. They, of course, it's a part of encouragement, but sometimes they will be forcing the child to do it. Okay, and if the child is unwilling to do it, what the child do, it immediately go and hide himself either behind the sofa or in any other room. Okay, and these types of behaviors we can similarly here. Pongo, when he was brought out of the cage and he was forcefully asked to jump, or he was pushed to do something, any activity, any physical activity, Pongo, what does it do? It feels that it is much safer for him, that he will be going inside the cage and getting himself locked there. Okay, he would try his best to divert you from this course of action, but when he realized that it had become inevitable, he would submit with good grace. So many of the times, Pongo actually try his best to divert, this type of behavior, and but when he realized that it had become inevitable means unavoidable activity, and then at the time he started performing it with, or submitting it with, much grace. His only protest would be a couple of sharp and faintly peevish screams as he saw you. The only protest that Pongo gives back to you, these are animals normally show their willingness, or even their protest through the different sounds they make. Okay, so they don't have the speaking language, so what their language is that sound language. So whatever, so if they are having pain, they make a crying sound. If they are very happy, that they will be making a different types of sounds. Okay, so what is that, the only thing gorilla also tries to do is that if he doesn't like or any kind of behavior, or you feel like something is wrong and is not comfortable, and he just what gives is that he just makes certain screamings, okay. And as he saw you, and suddenly when he understands that is a gorilla, baby gorilla understand, he disappears. That you have seen or you are observing, he disappears. Whereas the average chimpanzee of his age and with his background would have gone on having hysterics for a considerable length of time. But this behavior, if you compare it with the other chimpanzees of the same age of the Pongo, you can see that they will be doing different types, having the hysterics actually, the different mischievous behavior that is being done by the monkeys, okay. And they will be continuing it for a long time also. So here actually what the narrator want to tell you that the behavior of the gorilla is according to the situation, and he is not like any other apes of or any other creatures or animals of even his own family or any other family, okay. So owing to his attractive appearance and disposition, his good manners, and his very well developed sense of humor, Pongo was in very short space of time became the darling of the zoo. So Pongo, after some time, because of its exuberant qualities, okay, it has become exuberant means full of excitement, qualities that is it very attractive in the appearance, in the look, and also disposition, size, okay, and is well behaved, good manners, and is very well developed sense of humor. How it correlates itself with the other animals, everything in short span of time, Pongo became the dearest darling of the zoo, okay, means the dearest pet of the zoo. Every fine afternoon, he was brought out onto the lawn in front of the yew hedge, and there he would show off to his admirers. In zoo, if you go to visit a zoo, you can see that the animals were brought out sometimes, or certain animals you see in the cage, okay, and they were actually made for the people to see, observe, and enjoy, okay. And some people also show their interest in feeding these animals by giving some nuts or crackers or something like that, okay, or some fruits, etc. So you can see that every fine afternoon, Pongo was also brought out to show to its admirers, either lolling in the grass with a bored expression on his face or with a wicked gleam in his eye, working out how he could pose for the photograph to be taken by some earnest visitors, and then rush forward at the crucial moment, grasp the unfortunate person's leg, and push it from under him, a task that gave him immense amusement and generally resulted in the visitor sustaining a slip disc and having an excellent picture of the completely empty section of the lawn, okay. So what the gorilla does is that when it was brought out of its cage to show the people to its admirers, he lolls on the grass, means he will be rolling on the grass, or sometimes he gives a very wicked gleam in his eye. Gleam means having that wicked look. If you have observed the eyes of these gorillas, they are very very small, okay, and they used to make very different expressions to their eyes. Then working out how he could pose, and of course people who come to visit and look at these animals, they used to click photographs, and Pongo was very interested in getting himself clicked in the photograph, so he used to give different poses for the people to take the photographs, and he was so much earnestly interested in that. And then sometimes there is a like a fun, animals, especially these animals of this family, this species, they enjoy lot of fun, lot of fun is there. That's why we see the animals, especially the monkeys, used to swing from one branch to another, take the things here and there, throw it here and there, they have this lot of fun in them. So that is what it expresses, because it remains happy by doing all those things. It feels they are completely enjoying in what they are. And you can sometimes, Pongo, what does he do when he sees any zooer or any person very near, visitor near to the zoo, he tries to pull up their legs and push it down and make them fall down, and this can sometimes result in a very grave slip disc of the person, and then gorilla will be also getting an excellent pose for the picture in the camera. Okay, and when he starts doing these type, it might be fun for gorilla, but for other people it's not fun, so they will be getting scared, and within no time the lawn remains to be empty. Okay, so with the 12 months, Pongo had doubled his size, and I felt it was now time to try by fair means or foul to obtain a mate for him. You know, why actually, what is the basic purpose of Gerald Durrel bringing Pongo? Because he wanted to protect the extinction of the gorilla, the species. Okay, so now Pongo has grown up, and within 12 months, and he has become the double of its size. When he was brought at the age of 2, he was very small, but now he has grown up into a very big gorilla. And now Gerald Durrell finds that it's a time that he has to bring a mate for him, that is a female gorilla for his companionship. Okay, so I hope that you understood this much part. We'll be continuing in the next video. Thank you. Take care.